Right. This is why I like your story because you were not given a blank check. Like you came out of college, you went straight into this and you figured it out on your own. You didn't have like this infinite pot of money. So like your processes were super efficient. They weren't just, huge facility, top of the line everything. Like you made it work. So that's why, this is super interesting for people to hear because, you don't hear stories like this very often. So thank you for that. Hi, John. Welcome to the program. It's really great to have you, and long time no see.
Hey, how's it going, man? Long time no see.
How's everything going down in Aberdeen?
Life as a grower, it's how it is. Garden working, loving the plants, and grinding every day.
Yeah, I remember when I first met you, and I got to get down to your farm, and it was actually just starting up. Like, you taught me so much about the process of like cannabis from a commercial standpoint. It is not an easy job, especially when you're bootstrapping. Um, maybe we can talk a bit about that experience, a bit about your background and how you got started in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi guys. I'm John. I am currently my occupation is the master grower and slash owner of Washington Tower Farm. I started growing when I was a chemistry student at University of Washington. Love weed, started as a closet grow, love to share my flower with my friends. And fast forward until I graduated, looking for work, and Washington legalization hit. And I saw an opportunity. I think it'll be interesting to bring some chemistry knowledge and my passion into cannabis industry. And that's how I did, pull out all my old grown notes, study, trying to look for a new position opening and study a little bit and went on look for my first job.
So you eventually got employed, and then how did you end up with your own farm? What was kind of that story, that transition?
Yeah, I mean it was a completely brand new industry. I started working for someone else because I just got out of
Right.
college, learning how to do the business and knowing how this industry is like kind of testing the water. And after 2 3 years of working for my own employer, I find that I acquired the skill and my knowledge. I think I can start it on my own. I had the passion and drive, and you know took time, did my business plan, and just went out there looking for started with friends and family and word of mouth and starting talking to investors.
Mm.
And luckily we was and still is a very hot topic out there, and people love to talk about it and then seeing if there's
Mm.
opportunity. So that's how I got it in.
And basically, when you started, I was there in the beginning. Just kind of, you were kind enough to let me join you down in Aberdeen and set up some of the hoop houses indoors. Where were you located, and what was that finding that location like?
Yeah, finding location is a rough one. It's you gotta find. You don't want to be the rent to be too high. You definitely want to watch out your overhead. It took us roughly about almost a year to find a perfect location we want to reside. That is closer to the city, but not too close. That has great layout, good electricity cost, and clean
Mm.
water. And that's how I started. It took me quite a long time to acquire my license and scoping out for a good spot and started off on there. And I locate in Aderbeen, Washington. So that's basically right below Olympia National Park, as natural as it can be. Life out here is very
Yeah, you're
beautiful.
right. You're right on the door to the Olympic National Park, and um, very beautiful area. And you're also like it's about 2 hours or an hour and a half from Seattle, so that's kind of where you are going after the target customer.
Yep, correct. Like Seattle, greater area. My farm is about roughly about hour and 30 minutes away.
Okay. And I remember being on the farm with you, and you were doing pH testing on the water, and you were saying how important that was. That was just one of many things you were focused on. Can you kind of go into like your process as a cannabis grower and what sets you apart with your chemistry background?
Well, everybody has their own secret sauce and recipe or their niche, right? I mean, I think for me, it is more like since I'm a chemistry dude, I look things more from the molecular level. I like to think that everything is structured up with tiny molecules and the acting like a Lego building block basically. And from there, you take all the building blocks and you slowly build it into a structure that you love. And my idea of how to grow weed is essentially this way by, looking to the nutrients, basically is the building block. And then, you're looking into the environment, if it is right condition and, the right energy consumption into the light, the right conversion of water, nutrient, and light conversion into energy and growth in biomass. I like to view things towards that perspective and creating a good, symbiotic relationship in between the soil and the plant. I mean, since they are living things, you want to have this tiny worker that acts like, additional worker in the rising zone, and then prepare the nutrient for the plants to take more.
And you had this dream in the beginning, and what are some of the early steps or things that you maybe if you could look back, what would you say to yourself in those early days that you could maybe like use to optimize your grow?
Well, so I started as a very craft grower. It
Mm,
still is, but as a commercial level, it is really hard to do 100% craft.
mm.
And you need to know what's your strong, what's your weakness, and focusing on your strength and trying to adapt and learn and then fix your weakness. For me, I think knowing your cost is definitely number one because you want to do this as a business. I'm a commercial grower, but at the same time, you still want to maintain the craft, the right techniques, and the right balance of nutrient and everything to achieve your best growth. The most perfect crop. But still, everything is important factors. There's not a thing more important than the others. It is everything is kind of like in the right ratio, and then everything is kind of acting like a symbiotic relationship. They all link one to the other, and one thing off throw, you have the entire production to be off.
Right. So, what were some of those early challenges, if you don't mind? You can be honest. I think that's part of the show here is to share the challenges and, letting people know that, we all experience this kind of thing when it comes to efficiency and, yeah.
I think biggest for my biggest challenge right in the beginning, I would say start growing from 20, 30, 40 plants up to a couple thousand plants, and managing small quantity versus big
Mm,
quantity is a very big difference. That's number one in numbers. On the nutrient, when you're growing small and boutique and craft, and especially you're growing as a hobbyist, you be able to use the best product, anything that is the best for your plants, doing the right technique and bring out the best flower. But from commercial perspective, you gotta know that where the market resides, how much are people paying, since it is more um, normalized now. There's a fixed price for what we should be selling
mm,
at, and not everybody's a craft smoker, but at the same time, since the legalization, people's taste for flower is definitely grew a lot, and people they demand higher quality. So the ratio from how much money you're spending into your crop and how much you getting out of it is very critical and essential. And throughout your process, of course, you want to watch out your spending, your labor, and into how much you're spending on your nutrient, and if the bottle nutrients are way too expensive, there are many ways that you can achieve a better nutrient system by doing a little bit of Frankenstein. And in my case, since I do have that background, I'm lucky that I know how to put together and look for a different factor with cheaper
Yeah, that's
costs.
got to be huge
Yeah.
because some people might have no idea where to start with that. Um, did you kind of you did it all yourself when it came to combining things, or you had some places you could look for some advice on that?
Well, definitely out there, there's a lot of basic nutrient that comes into three parts, and we basically call it the salt base. The salt based nutrients aren't as good as organic or any other bottle line, but they got 80% of the job done. And which are missing are the organic factor, which all the bottle nutrient and trying to introduce, and the mycorrhizae, the microbes. So what I did is basically looking for the lines that I like to use and that I study at, that I'm familiar with. And then from there, using a three parts as your base and start adding different booster and you know, different nutrient, different booster into what you need at different stages of the
Okay.
growth cycle.
Well, this kind of goes into like how do you achieve, the quality of cannabis that you wanted from the outset? Have you achieved that? What were kind of the steps that it took to get to that, as well as the consistency that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows weed is a loving plant. A lot of growers sing and talk to their plants and try to deliver the love. And I do believe that the more tender love and care that you're giving to the plants is how much they're gonna love you back. And in return, they give you better structure, better yield, frostier nugs. And there's no other way around it. You need to put in hard work, and you need to check up on them like they're your baby, on a daily basis. I mean, right in the beginning, it seems there's a lot of repetitive work, and you might think it is tedious, but in the long run, that's how everything's are. You need to check up on them, and they require your attention, requires your care on a daily
Mm,
basis. And as long as you hit all the points and you sing and talk to them, tell them good night, I think they're gonna love you back and give you the right return. And of course, you're not gonna feed your baby with some unknown fast food, then don't use some offside nutrient you never
mm,
seen before, or don't do crazy Frankenstein trying to feed your baby like a 5,000 calorie meals, knowing where it's at and using the pH probe, the ppm probe to trying to test out to know where nutrient level is at. And from there, that's your food. That's what you have dialed down. And the environment is also another big factor. It cannot be too hot, it cannot be too cold. It has to be right at the right temperature zone, the right humidity, and the right amount of CO2, plus a really efficient light. And there you go. You have the perfect combination to grow big yield, the maximum yield, and fire
I
flowers.
remember, what was that, the summer of 2017, where that was an extremely hot summer we had in Seattle, and you were kind of getting set up and trying to just handle the heat in there. How are things going, you know, 7 years later, with your kind of consistency, and how are things going since then? It's just been such a while, and you've been there every day putting in the work, and how, like, paint a picture of kind of that, how it's like developed over the years. And I'm sure there's so much more to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, every year is a battle, and there's new things trying to accomplish. And if you remember, when I started my business, when you were living here with me, trying to see how everything's are and helping me out, I only have three greenhouses set
Mm,
up, and now I have 10 plus a gigantic
wow.
nursery. And yeah, the first summer we had a heat stress. It was rough. We had to open up all the door, bring up all the fans, trying to keep the air moving around, keep the temperature low while it is 90-degree out there. Without AC, it is impossible to
Mm,
cool down. But what we had to do is to keep that airflow going and then bring that new CO2, new moisture into the room and keep the air moving, right? And 6 to 7 years down the road now, we definitely progress a lot. I have put in a significant amount of tonnage on the cooling side, and we expanding from 3 rooms to 10 rooms now. Production definitely quadrupled,
Mhm.
if not more, right? And the quality and everything definitely is more balanced. There's always better equipment, better ways, and more efficient steps that to keep improving your growth. And never think that you are 100% set, because there's always new technology, new techniques, new strains, new ways of growing cannabis. And I think as grower, as somebody got out of college and decide to put myself into cannabis, this is a lifestyle. This is something that I've chosen to live down and enjoy the process every day and trying to look to be better.
Right. This is why I like your story because you were not given a blank check. Like you came out of college, you went straight into this and you figured it out on your own. You didn't have like this infinite pot of money. So like your processes were super efficient. They weren't just, huge facility, top of the line everything. Like you made it work. So that's why, this is super interesting for people to hear because, you don't hear stories like this very often. So thank you for that. What are today? Today, are you happy with the quality of your crop? Are like things a bit more predictable at least than they were? Like you have employees. I'm sure you've had a range of employees you've had to work with. How is dealing with people and plants? That's kind of what I want to ask, I guess. Today.
Yeah, I mean, when I started the business was small, and we only had 3 grow room, and I was able to basically carry everything myself. But as how from 3 rooms to 10 rooms, it is almost impossible to carry it by yourself, and there's definitely other anomalies that I need to work on. There's a lot of errands and I need to focusing on, and the amount of time I'd be able to spend garden are getting less and less. And I have come to a point that I become the set of eye, I become the eagle eye to go into the garden to look for mistakes, to look for things that needs to be
Mm,
improved. And training your employee, training your team well is a very important, most one of the most important step if you want to get into a cannabis business. It's really labor intensive. You need skillful people knowing what they need to do, and if you don't, you need to train them the way you need them to be. And if it is someone that has enough knowledge, then you need to try to sync in with them, because everybody has a very different approach on growing cannabis.
mm,
And from there, it is just hard work and years of accumulation, selecting the right genetic, and there's always ways to improve. And with the interesting about part about growing cannabis is every different strain is a different thing.
mm,
You have to grow it in order to know what it likes. Some likes more nitrate, some likes more calcium, some likes more magnesium. I mean, different plates acts differently, and you need to find their natural habitat, what they like the most. And from there, you give them different nutrient, and they will grow the way they should. And putting a team together is definitely the one of the hardest part. But it took me 5 6 years to train just 2 guys to work with me that we sync
mm.
100%. We kind of like each other's shadow. We know each other's thoughts, and you have to trust your team, or else you won't be able to available yourself. So that says, everything starting with putting together a stronger grower team, and out from there into processing, into drying, yeah.
When you're looking for a new hire, what kind of traits are you looking for? Are you looking for someone who's like an expert or calls himself an expert, or are you looking for someone who's willing to learn and start from the ground?
So cannabis is still relatively a new industry. There are experts, there are people been growing for 20 something years in the backyard. There are some hidden character heroes out there that are troopers. They have full packs of knowledge. And for me, it is, I mean, I'm pretty young. I started my way. You kind of have to take down your notes, right, and making all the notes and track your steps. You know, from there, working with someone and knowing what kind of style they like to grow, and then sync it from there. I think that's what I my recommendation was. I'm sorry, Tyler. Remind me the question
Oh, it was
again.
simply, what kind of traits do you look for in a person? Like basic traits, like have being an expert minded person that goes in there kind of already knowing what to do, or someone, there's always got to be a little bit of that, but maybe someone who's just coming in fresh and willing to learn, that maybe you see as like an empathetic person that you could get along with. Like, how do you weigh in the beginning, because you've gone through employees, like have you learned more of how to pick the people that you can work with, like earlier on?
I think most importantly, number one is
Mm.
passion. You need to have passion in order to work in the weed industry. It's highly repetitive and hard work. That's number one. And second is not lazy. Oh, we know a lot of pot smokers tend to like to get high and not to do a lot of things. But for us as grower, we are very efficient. You need to look for someone that is not worry about getting their hands dirty, not worry about sweating a lot, not worry about putting some hard work. And passion is what keeps everybody going in that terms. And there's no other around. It's everyday hard work. And if without that passion, someone is quickly gonna get burned
Mm.
out. Like in my case, I have a lot of passion, and it took me 6, 7 years to be where I am. And a lot of players maybe fall off in the first couple of years because you might not see that look cannabis as lucrative as you think it is. And um, since legalization is a big things now, and there are more legal state, weed has become more like a commodity. And there's a trend. Sometimes weed are more expensive than the other times, and there are times just nothing will be moving, and you need to be able to have that passion, hold it down,
Mm.
still creating the best flower, and knowing that eventually people will come to you and then want to smoke or consume your product. And I think that's very important. Having that passion, down to earth, willing to grind. That's a criteria you're looking for.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so you say like 7 years later, are you starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel? Are you starting to kind of see, like, feel comfortable about where you are? Is there like a path to follow, or is it still kind of, where do we go from here when things are changing, like you said, with pricing and you know things not being federal yet, and just we're just kind of waiting around for things that are out of our control.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows right now the economy is a bit shaky. I mean, we directly getting affecting by the economy directly quite a lot since we are considered entertainment, right? People might not want to spend as much money in weed, but on the other hand, it is something that I do believe it is a culture has been built up throughout the past 5, 6 years. More and more states are legalized. That means there are more consumer out there. People are still buying cannabis, and the culture is getting more and more accepted. Therefore, I think as long as you produce good flower, you know where you stands, and you control your cost. If you can get all these factor down, you be able to survive in the industry. And it is not always you be able to make money because how weed is a commodity. It can be during the pandemic when everybody is smoking weed, when there's stimulus check, it can go as expensive as let's just say $2,000 a pound, right? And for now, let's just say everything is slowing down, you can see flour as cheap as probably $800 a pound. And we're talking about it is a 50% difference. But that also because during recession, I'm sorry, during pandemic, people, the grower, the farmer sees, hey, the market is good, I should grow more. But when you grow more, you don't crop it right now. You crop it 2, 3 months down the road. And when everybody thinks the same way, you suddenly have a oversurge in supply. So don't blindly follow others. You set your own schedule, you set your own path, and you are competing with yourself. You want to grow better flower, you want to be better than yesterday, And I think that's all it matters. Once in a while, pick it up, compare your flower, compare your product with others, knowing that you're competitive, knowing your cost is there. Put your heads down, back to work, talk to your plants, love your plants. And I think a lot of growers out there don't like to associate with people, and that's why they grow weed in the first place. And as soon as you pick you up and look a little bit, knowing where you stand, and knowing that you're putting to hard work, and eventually it will get there. And for me, I'm still grinding and I'm still on the battle. My 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 growth has grown a lot, and business has become a lot more steady.
Mm,
But with this economy turbulence, is definitely a struggle.
mm.
But I'm still standing in there. I'm still grinding. I'm still fighting, and there are always other ways to improve yourself, right? When the economy is not good, you focusing on yourself, elevating yourself, and trying to produce higher quality. Since everything is slower, you don't have to grow as much. You be able to reduce your head count, training your people, getting a stronger team, looking into more about marketing, strengthening yourself, um, putting all the factors together, and eventually you'll succeed. And that's what I believe, and that's what I'm fighting for right now.
Yeah, for doing this 7 years, you've been able to piece things where you need to piece them to just keep going. I know it's a very tough industry, so hats off to you. I kind of wanted to go into a question about um, sustainability and how important sustainability is to your operation. Is it a big factor? Is it a small factor? Is it just a pie in the sky idea? Like, this is kind of where what question we want to ask our guests on this show about that, and how it can affect a farmer if it's not such a big deal. And how do you see it?
Yeah, with our generation, I think environment is a really big factor, and a lot of us in the industry, we love nature, and that's why we smoke weed. That's why we grow weed. We love peace. And when it comes down to environment, sustainability is one of the most important factor, and this is a very serious thing. When you start a business, creating a farm, when you grow up to economic scale, you bring pollution. And with everything that you do as a business owner, that is one of the biggest things that is on my mind all the time. Do I put in too much nutrient? Are these nutrients going down the drain? Am I using too much of electricity that not being efficient? Am I pumping too much CO2 that I'm adding more
Mm.
CO2 into the atmosphere? That is probably a no. But things that you would think about. And I think, sustainability is one of the most important things, and living as a human being as well. I like to live no waste and convert all my energy spent into weights, because you don't want to have any waste. You want to, and you want to convert every energy, every nutrient, every dollar you spend into biomass, and therefore you be able to have a return. And that's where sustainability comes in, because the more sustainable you are means you leaving way less waste, and you are being more efficient. And with all my steps I try to take, that's what I do. And luckily I have a chemistry background. I know how to play with nutrient, and it seems like that's one of the biggest pollutant. And for the other part, I mean, comes from environment, definitely the amount of electricity that you consume is your second carbon footprint. And out of that carbon footprint, it's harder to get around, because you're going to have a lot of light that's going to create a lot of heat. A lot of heat, if you are growing indoor, you need a lot of AC, a lot of HVAC tonnage to bring it down. And if you use everything older technology, HPS or double ended, you kind of walk into a vicious cycle where it was like that and it's still like this for majority of the grow. But what happens is you're consuming more energy using a less energy efficient light, emitting more heat back to the environment, and you need more coolage to bring down the temperature. It becomes a vicious cycle. And what I would say, a big things that I've been looking at recently is that I find that LED light has become a very mature product on the market, which we talk about HPS emitting more heat. versus LED using 30% to 40% less energy and emitting more less heat and converting into more spectrum, making more efficient. And with less heat into out, you need less electricity to run your HVAC. And that becomes you are being more efficient, not just on your light, but also your HVAC. And saying the LED light emitting better efficient, more stronger wavelength, and more pack spectrums that is delivering and mimicking sunlight more efficiently than the traditional HPS. And with that, it be able to make your plants produce wider spectrum of terpene profile, or just bring its more natural habitat out more perfectly compared to HPS. And that's something that I've been testing and working on, testing out a lot of different manufacturing, and that's what I find recently. And I think that it is something very key important factor in
Hmm.
sustainability.
Yeah, that can lighting can cost for almost half the energy usage if you consider the HVAC as well. Any other any other thoughts on sustainability or any other actions you can take outside of the lighting?
Yes, absolutely. We're always talking on the growing side. We can talk about on the business side, because you need to grow, you need to dry, you need to process,
Mm,
you need to come up with a beautiful brand that representing you and your ideology, your company, and then go out there and sell. And we all know when it comes to packaging, it is a very big waste.
mm,
And really there's no other way around about sustainability with packaging, because we all know weed goes into package, you buy the weed and you tear it open, you finish the product inside, you throw the bag away. Essentially the way I see about packaging, it is just pure garbage. You buy garbage, you put it in there, it's out. I personally don't like it, but that's how the economy works, that people demand that flowers in the
mm.
package. But from there, you definitely want to keep in mind what kind of material that you're using. Since a really highly turnover, we're talking about if you're using all plastic, you're gonna have cargoes, loads of plastic waste created by just your farm if you don't watch over
Mm.
it, right? And for me, I like to look into recycled material. That's absolutely looking into biodegradable material. Looking into packaging that gives it back, that will go out there and then trying to make the environment better. Um, what I see in packaging is there's no other way to get around, but being a business owner, you have to be aware. Um, some things are cheaper than the others, and usually cheaper product means higher pollution because they are cheaper. Some cheaper plastic just don't break, are not biodegradable, therefore they are cheaper. And you gotta know where it's at and be able to control your cost from seed to sell, allows you to spend a little bit more if you care about sustainability and the environment. And I think in my case, that's a very important factor. We don't want to pollute anything, and we want to smoke weed and then be able to go into the trail and enjoy that forest 50 years down the road. Still, we want our kids, we want our next generation to enjoy this beautiful planet and still be able to go into the wilderness and
Yeah.
enjoy the environment. So very important sustainability, you know
And are
so
you
yeah.
seeing, people reacting to your branding and, using sustainable packaging? I mean, some people just care about their bottom line. Is Are you seeing, an uptick in people that are, purchasing based on taking these actions? Like, is that part of your niche and is it effective?
Yeah, I will say there's a Oh, yeah, it is definitely a selling point. Living in the Pacific Northwest, I think the environmental awareness is really huge. People do believe in global warming out here and believe that the human cost on
Hmm.
pollution is real, and everybody will like to take a take in it. And by getting your word out, telling people that you are sustainable, you are helping certain kind of environmental awareness group, that really takes a long way. And I mean, of course, you want to be able to reach out to the community, knowing who you are targeting to, and from there, as long as people who cares about environment, which is in the Pacific Northwest, most people do. We're doing pretty good out here, and I hope, very hope one day maybe we can have the milk jar idea where people be able to recycle their wheat jars, somebody collecting at their door and then recycle those jars so we don't ever have to use plastic. You
That
know what I
sounds
mean?
great.
But that could be done in a smaller community, maybe not in a giant city. But yeah, we do our parts and we try to push it, and people who cares about it, they're willing to spend that additional dollar. Well, maybe not that expensive, just because weed has been legalized, and we like to get a good product that is affordable, that is beautiful out there without all this crazy hypes. And
Mm,
nicer the packaging means more waste that you have to put into it. So it's hard to see. Younger generation will definitely like that flashiness, but people that who has more environmental awareness will try to hunt for that, biodegradable packaging. And you definitely do have those. A lot of organic people, they just trying to look for the minimal packaging. They don't even want you to have much. They just want a tiny bags, and that's all it is. So finding your group and pushing in there.
mm.
And if you really believe in sustainability and the clean environment, then find a group. They will support you. And this world doesn't build by its own. It needs a group, and you need partners like that to get your words out, right?
That's totally right. Well, I appreciate your talk on that. Next things for Washington Tower Farms. What are the next steps for your farm? Where do you see yourself the next 5 years? Um, Things like that. What do you have to say about the next few years over there in Aberdeen?
Well, with the slowing down economy, really it's hard to predict what's coming up. But I would love to stay optimistic and not look down. There's always opportunity to be found in any given time. And I would like to see that during this small slowing down, I have ability to kind of look back to tweeting a little bit in my garden to make it more efficient. I mentioned about testing out a lot of LED light. I'm actually in the process of switching out into, if not the whole farm, trying to get as much as I could into LED light. That be able to drop my electricity bill lower. That be able to make my AC not work as much, prolong my
Mm,
lifetime, and giving me ability to upgrading my quality of flower by using a fuller spectrum and this and that. That's on my growth side. I've been growing for 6, 7 years. There's really not much to improve other than buying new adapting equipments. And with the slowing down economy, we're gonna work with what we have. And the only thing I'm wanting to get for is a better energy a converter, which is the
mm,
the light. And light is something. It's a perpetual cycle. You will not be able to use it forever. So we're about 6, 7 years. It's about time for it to switch. That's what we're getting on. And on the other side, packaging is something that we're working on as well. I mentioned about, when the business, well, you are highly repetitive, you are trying to keep the wheel going. You have no time to look back, to kind of tuning a little bit, looking for better packaging, that is more environmental friendly. And that is something that we're working on. We're actually revamping our brand, redoing our website, to adding more mission into it, kind of doing like a small reset with this slowing down economy, which at the end it feels like it's a benefit to us, because a lot of bigger boys, they might be struggling. They have all this factor dialed in. They are missing all this factor that they can actually grow in a slower
mm,
economy. And for somebody who just started it, uh, don't be too upset about, oh, the economy is not good, I won't be able to sell my weed. Almost every business started, you have a incubating period, and that incubating period can be 1 to 3 years, or if not more. And during that incubating period, you want to be able to bring out your best product, trying to find your position in the market, going out there networking. And if the business in the economy is good, then everybody is running, everybody is sprinting. But with the slowing down economy, everybody is kind of sitting still, and you kind of have the time to catch up. And I would like to see it as opportunity. So for me, I'm doing a catch up game, and upgrading my light system, giving me better flower, working on my image, on my branding, and going out there and trying to do some more networking. As some people failing the business, there are going to available a lot more opportunity out. Knowing your numbers, knowing your cost, knowing your return is very, very important as a businessman. And you just have to know where you at and keep on grinding.
Yeah.
And not saying never look back, but keep your heads down. It's a grind. It's for sure it's a grind.
Well, that kind of goes into my next question. Some people out there, maybe they want to start growing a commercial facility or they just want to grow cannabis in their home and they don't know where to start. What kind of advice would you give to somebody like that, who's on the fence? I know those are two completely different things, but maybe just starting with a guy who, you know, is, is interested in weed for whatever reason and just wants to get started growing. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, for someone who wanted to start a cannabis business, the recommendation is always have your numbers right. Everything starts with planning, preventing. This also goes with growing. You want to have prevention instead of reacting to whatever is coming out. You want to prevent the outbreaks before the outbreak happens. Same thing with running a business. You want to make sure your cost, where you can sell to, your cost and return ratio is correct. Um, you're compatible enough with the industry, and most of the information that you'll be able to find on Google, knowing how to grow, knowing what kind of equipments to get, and you need to have the knowledge of putting those pieces together. And it comes down to planning and numbers, numbers, numbers. I think for anybody who wants to do business, number is number one. And have your knowledge, have your passion, and it is gonna be a rough road. There's no other way around, really. Um, just buckle up, get ready, and put your heads down to grow. It's gonna be it's a long way. And investing in efficient machine equipment is definitely absolutely the key. It gets you a long way.
Mm.
It be able to make your 10 hours working day shorten to 5 hours. It can make your yield from 5 pounds become 10 pounds. So invest into efficient equipments, invest into things that is gonna bring you good value. Um, Maybe starting with secondhand. Who knows? You do what you need to do as long as the number
Mm.
matches up, and that's my biggest advice, I would say. And for people who wants to
Mm.
grow at home, you know what? Just have fun. I mean, just like growing some tomato in the backyard, you're gonna eat that tomato. You're gonna love it. Homegrown is always the best because you put your love, you put your care. It is not just weed, so you're gonna love it and enjoy that time with the plants, and you will understand how hard it is to grow fire hot wheat. And you will thank your grower, local grower, next time when you go into the store buying the fire weed.
All right, I appreciate that. Final question. You're talking about working so hard, grinding every day, going out there. How do you balance your crazy work schedule and managing these people and managing all the things that could possibly pop up in a cannabis grow and your downtime, your time with family, your time with friends? I know you have a family in Seattle. You said you like to fish with your dad. Like, what are you doing to kind of take it easy and take a breather from all this?
Yeah, I mean, work-life balance is a hard one, and I'm gonna warn those staff who are trying to get in the industry. Once you put your feet in, um, growing is your life basically, and it's hard to. I mean, it's a living plant, and it requires 24/7 attention. In the beginning, you might not be able to go to bed because you're not sure the baby are growing well or not.
Mm.
It is very different from growing from a closet to a gigantic warehouse or farm. Um, and finding that work life balance, you just have to get to it. Sometimes that you just have to let it go, and giving yourself a short break and come right back to it. Running a really tight schedule, as you're saying that I'm running a really, really tight schedule. I try to put everything in there still, and luckily I'm still young. I'd be able to have that stamina and energy to keep it going. um, yeah, I mean, fishing, hiking, everything. I mean, it's part of life. You need to know how to de-stress. You need to find that balance, or else even you are working with plants, at some time you're gonna burn out, and burning out as things that you love, it is not enjoyable
Mhm.
at all. There are periods of time I work too much that you start questioning, why did you do this? I love plants. I like the chillness of it. I like the culture about it. And the weed culture is not about, it's about chill. It's about peace, you know? And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, there's no other way around. It's not about weed. It's about being an entrepreneur. You need to grind so much. Force yourself, put your schedule out, follow your schedule, and get yourself that rest. It's absolutely needed.
Hmm. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for being our first guest on the podcast. You taught me so much out there in Aberdeen when I had the chance to stay with you, and it's so awesome to talk to you these many years later. We're going to have to catch up after the show on a few things, but I hope that you can come back on the podcast when we have another episode in the future, and you let us know how things are going.
Absolutely. I hope I did okay on this one. You know, this is also my first podcast as well. And I've been through face to face small interviews, but never been on a podcast. So thank you.
It's
Thank you
an
so
honor, man.
much.
We've learned a lot. I appreciate you, and get some rest and talk to you next time. Thank you.
That was it, man. Bye.